Hello, everybody. Tracy Miss JDog Flanagan with you here today. I'm the co-founder and senior vice president at JDog Brands. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tactical Treasures podcast, sponsored by the JDog Foundation. Our podcast gives the military community a voice in the veteran space to share their stories of service, how they continue to make a difference in civilian life, and they share with me a tactical treasure that has shaped their journey in their military career, business, or life. Today, I am so honored to speak with Tyrone Smith, who is a combat decorated Navy SEAL, leadership coach, and keynote speaker with 20 years of high stakes military experience, including 6 combat deployments, 700 plus enemy combatants neutralized, and the issuance of 35 plus Combat Valor Awards under his charge. As the founder of Hero Consulting, Ty coaches middle market and enterprise executives in decision making under pressure, accountability, and ownership. Ty holds degrees in organizational management, business admin, and humane letters. Ty is a national and world champion Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu athlete, having received his black belt from the legendary master Barret Yoshida. Ty speaks nationally on Navy SEAL leadership, resilience, and how to win without losing your integrity. Hello, Ty. Welcome to the podcast. And thank you so much for your service to our country.
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me, Tracy.
Yes, I'm excited for our discussion today. But before we get started, I do want to ask you just a couple questions about your military career. So I would love to know what inspired you to join the Navy.
Sure. I was 12 years old and I watched the movie Navy SEALs starring Charlie Sheen. I watched that movie with my mom and I fell in love for the first time. And I looked over at my mom and I said, that's what I want to do when I grow up. And she reinforced it. She told me that I could. And so I ended up joining the Navy immediately after high school.
Oh, wow. Wow. I love that. That's a great story. So, but I understand like you join the Navy, but you don't become a Navy SEAL. Like that's a whole nother program, correct?
Yeah, so when I joined the Navy, so it's kind of a long story, and I'll try to spare you the long story. So the Navy had decided that it wanted me to be an air crewman and an anti-submarine warfare specialist aboard P-3 aircraft. I did not want to do that. I wanted to be a Navy SEAL. And so, as I was completing that training, all of my air crewman training down in Pensacola, I made a big fuss about not wanting to be there. And so I was given the opportunity to go to SEAL training for the very first time, and it was 1997,
Oh,
and
wow.
I was 18, and I wasn't ready. And so I made it as far as a day in the hell week, and I self-selected, which means that I quit and was like, nope, I'm not ready for this. And so the Navy then sent me to school to become a military police officer. And so after I completed that training, I went to Sardinia, Italy. I was supposed to be there for 2 years. I ended up staying there for 5 years because I made myself irreplaceable by learning the Italian language, and I ended up working as the liaison and the translator between the American military police and the Italian Carabinieri. And so I ended up staying there for 3 years longer than I thought I would. And I was actually going to get out of the Navy because I loved it so much. I was going to stay in Italy. I was going to go to the University of Rome and just build my life in Europe. But 9/11 happened, and I was given the opportunity to go back to SEAL training, and I was ready.
Mm-hmm.
I was a lot older, I was a lot more mature,
Yeah.
and got back to training about 4 months after the terror attacks of 9/11, and fortunately successfully navigated the entire training pipeline that time. And about a year and a half after I checked into the Naval Special Warfare Center in Coronado for the second time, I was deployed to Afghanistan for the first time as a SEAL operator and ended up spending the next 15 years basically in the Middle East as an operator in the SEAL teams.
Wow. Wow. How exciting. And I think that's really awesome that you realize that you weren't ready and then, you had another opportunity to be ready and to go back and follow your dream from 12 years old. I love it. I think that's a great story. Um, so I would have one other question for you. Is there a particular aspect or moment from your service that stood out as impactful in a positive way for you?
Gosh, that's a really good question. And there were so many. I think that what immediately comes to mind for me is the very first time I experienced something like that. It wasn't just the first time I experienced something like that in the Navy. It was the first time I had ever experienced something like that, and it involved someone outside of my family, right?
Mm,
And so I had been in, so Navy boot camp is very easy. Okay. It's only about 8 weeks. And I think I'd only been there for about half the time. But I had my cadence, my routine. I'd clicked up with certain guys in my division. And so I was having fun. And one day we had an evolution where we weren't spending time, and by we, I mean the guys in my division, we weren't necessarily spending time with the two recruit division commanders that were responsible for us. We were kind of intermingling with other guys from other divisions, and we were kind of at the mercy of other recruit division commanders. And there was an evolution where they asked us to stand up and talk about what we really wanted to do in the Navy, and I explained to them, to this particular RDC, this recruit division commander, that, well, I joined the Navy because I want to be a Navy SEAL, but if for some reason I can't do that, I would love to fly jets. That I think that would be really cool, right? Because all of my ideas of the Navy came from growing up and watching movies as a kid.
right.
Navy SEALs, Top Gun,
Yeah.
right? I was the average 12-year-old dude that grew up in the Midwest. And so that particular RDC, I learned a lot from that situation. I learned what poor leadership looked like as a result of how that RDC responded to me and immediately shut me down, right?
Oh,
And then I learned what really, really good leadership looked like later that afternoon when we got back to our division, and our RDCs were asking us, hey, what was the experience like? What did you learn from other RDCs of other divisions? Um, and I explained to him that, well, I learned that, you know, if I can't be a SEAL, then, like, in order for me to be a pilot, that I'd have to go to college. I didn't know that, like, you have to be an officer. But that RDC explained to me that, like, I probably would never do that, and so I should focus on being a SEAL. And so the reaction on your face right now was like the reaction on my RDC's face, but times 10.
right.
I had never in my life experienced someone not only standing up for me, but tightening me up in the process. The look that was on your face, like, it said it all. That was exactly what he was feeling when he heard me explain that to
Hmm.
him.
Hmm.
And he was the tougher of the two. So my two RDCs, one, the older, more senior, was actually the joker
Hmm.
of the two, right? He was the
Right.
one that was always giving us a hard time, joshing us and making us laugh, but was very fair. And the other, the younger and lower ranking guy, was the muscle of the two. He was the guy that never smiled. He was the guy that hammered us if we did something wrong, but he was very, very fair. And that day, the talking to that he gave me as a result of me allowing someone to tell me what I wasn't capable of doing
Mm,
was life changing for me.
right. Oh, wow.
Life changing. I
Sure.
had never experienced anything like that in my life. And the last thing I remember him saying to me was looking me in my eyes and saying, "Don't you ever let anyone tell you what you can't do."
Mm,
And he was genuinely pissed off,
right.
right?
Sure.
And he walked away. And when I saw him go and say a few things to my RDC, and I saw him get fired up, and then I just saw him walk out of the room, and I kind of knew that, like, he's going to go talk to that other guy. Like,
Sure. Right.
this is really cool. So that is a moment that happened at the very beginning of my
Hmm.
career. And I mean, I was an 18-year-old punk kid,
Hmm.
fresh out of East St. Louis, right in boot camp. And that person changed my life for the rest of my life
Wow.
with that interaction.
Wow, that's amazing. What an awesome impact he had on you. Just, and again, it all comes down to words. Words that you speak to someone. You can either speak life or, you know, not death, negativity, you know? And
Oh, I think it's the same, Tracy. No, I think you're right. I think you had it right the
the
first
first
time. You
time,
can speak
life
life or
or
death
death, yeah.
into a person. You can speak light or darkness
Sure.
into a person,
Yeah.
right? You can be the reason why a person decides to keep going, and you can be the reason why a person decides to go home
Right.
and give up,
Yeah. Yes,
right? So
true.
no, I agree with you.
Yeah, totally. What an amazing story. After 20 years in the military, in the Navy as a SEAL, you get out and what was your transition like?
My transition was, how do I explain my transition? It was very smooth because I had listened to all of my mentors and I had done everything that they told me to do, preparing for retirement. And so professionally, it was very smooth. It was squared away. I was finishing my MBA at University of Southern California within 1 week of my retirement day from the Navy. So when I tell you I timed it perfectly, like
Hmm.
I literally did everything that those older guys had told me to do because they
Right.
cared about me and they
Sure.
wanted me to have a good transition. And so I had launched my first business about 6 months prior to that, and so as my transition out of the Navy was, okay, I'm going to finish graduate school and I'm going to build a company, and all of that is going to be done and up and running by the time I walk out of the gate, leaving the base for the last time.
Wow.
And I hyper focused on that, and that's what I did. And so by the time my final day in the Navy came around, which was September 30th, 2016, I I think I took 2 days off. I took the weekend off and I retired on a Monday. So I finished graduate school on a Friday. The following Friday, I retired from the Navy. And the following Monday, I was in an office building working for the company that I had spent the previous 6 months building prior to retiring from the Navy. So on the surface, my transition was very, very smooth. But emotionally and psychologically, my transition was very, very difficult.
Hmm.
Like, to be completely honest with you, it nearly killed me.
Oh
It was
gosh.
very hard. In here and up here,
Hmm.
trying to figure out, okay, who the hell am I now if I'm not a Navy SEAL anymore? Where did all of my friends go? Oh, that's right. They're still on that train a million miles down the track, continuing mission because they're still on active duty and they're still learning HR tactics, meaning hostage rescue tactics, while I'm over here focusing on HR as in human resources. Like,
Right.
what the hell is happening with my life right
Right.
now?
Right.
Everything felt kind of haywire
Hmm.
in my heart and in my mind, but on the
Right.
surface, I appeared to be totally squared away. Fortunately, long story short, I got a tremendous amount of help from a lot of really, really, really good people,
Hmm.
professionals, and people that love and care about me and that were patient with me and saw me through the transition. And I'm really happy to say, and this isn't my ego saying this. This is me saying this because I'm hoping that other veterans listen to this and go, "Oh my gosh, it is possible. I can do that too." Personally, I think I beat post traumatic stress
Hmm.
years ago. It had its way with me
Hmm.
when when it really had its grip on me. It was terrifying. It led me to almost take my own life. It felt like it controlled nearly every aspect of my
Right.
life. But like I said, I got a lot of help from a lot of people that showed me a lot of patience. I did a lot of work on my own, volunteering, looking into programs, going and trying them, trying to get back to some sense of normalcy for my family, for my friends, for my children. I had to raise my hand and say, "Hey, I need help. I'm ready to go do the work." And I did that.
Right.
And so I think I beat post traumatic stress
Hmm.
years ago. I still will never be a normal human being, and that's okay. I
Yeah,
don't think
it's
I'm supposed
okay.
to.
Yeah.
But my transition, I got full Benny. I went through every emotion. And it took me years. I retired from the Navy in 2016. And some days I feel like I'm still transitioning, but it took me 3 to 4 years. I'd say 3 to 5 years before I really felt like, okay, I have successfully transitioned from the Navy. I don't feel like I'm losing my mind anymore, and all is well. Life is good. It
Right.
took me like 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Um, and you're right. I mean, especially with the fact that you spent 20 years in that identity piece. Once you get out, I hear from many veterans, um, that is always the struggle. Okay, now
Oh,
who
it's such a mind
it
bender.
is. It's like, now who am I? Now,
Right.
how do I define myself? And that ends up becoming a journey in itself. So good for you for, raising your hand and say, hey, guess what? I'm not okay and I need help, because
Thank you.
unfortunately a lot of veterans are too proud to do that, and too fearful to admit that they're not okay, and that, oh, what are people going to think? Or the only way to get help is to say, I need it, and to reach out,
It is
right?
the only way.
Yeah,
Yeah, you nailed it, Tracy. It is literally the only way. Like, trust me, everyone, I have tried everything that's out there. Like, on my own, from okay, I'm going to go do acupuncture, I'm going to go do floating, or I'm going to try sensory deprivation. I'm going to go on this psychedelic journey. Like, I tried everything, and I think that it's not one thing that helps the veteran.
right.
It's a combination
Com-
of all of these things and all of these people rallying around the individual veteran and providing him or her with an ecosystem
right,
that actually influences and enables the healing,
right.
because it takes years, it takes a tremendous amount.
Hmm.
And that was something that I had to discover about myself, was two things. I had to show myself grace, realizing that, dude, think about it. You spent 20 years in the United States Navy. Before you joined the Navy, you were only on the planet for 18 years. So you were in the
Right,
military longer than you were a civilian. Of course, you're going to need some help trying to figure this out, right?
right,
And then the other thing that I figured out was that, hey man, like I know you're a strong guy, like you've done a lot. You've proven that you're hard, like you won't quit at anything. You can take a lot of pain, but this is a storm that you cannot withstand on your own.
right,
Of everything that is out there, this is a storm you will not survive if you try to face it on your own. And that realization, I think, is what saved my life.
right, right. Wow. That's a great statement. And it's so true. Um, and not one therapy is going to work for everybody. There's so many, I think, more so now. There's a lot of healing modalities out there. And it's a
Hmm.
matter of trying a couple, or doing a couple, or finding what works for you. You know, a lot of people have had success with, equine therapy. That's been their mantra, and that has helped them so much. Whereas that might not help the other veteran, So
Hmm.
it's good to know that there's a lot of modalities out there. But you're right. Um, you can't do this journey on your own. You need help. You need a support system and everything.
Hello, viewers and listeners. Are you a military veteran or military family member and looking to own your own business? If so, go to jdog.com and check out our two veteran focused franchises, JDog Junk Removal and Hauling and JDog Carpet Cleaning and Floor Care. Our franchisees nationwide are always looking to hire fellow veterans and patriots. JDog is the world's largest military franchise system with hundreds of locations nationwide. We are nearly 90% veteran owned, with the goal of reducing the veteran unemployment rate to under 1%. Check us out. Go to jdog.com to learn more. Now, back to the podcast.
So Great discussion, but I want to take a little deep dive now into what you're doing now, founding We Are Hero. What was that journey like? How did you get there? And what made you think of that concept?
At Hero Consulting, like what we really do is leadership development coaching. We're executive coaches, but we focus on building leaders into even better leaders. And we do that by taking all of the leadership principles that we learned throughout our military
Mhm.
careers, translating those experiences into business applications so that people that were never in the military or first responders can actually understand what we're saying and we're not just using a bunch of military lingo and acronyms. And then we show them how to apply that science in the business environment. And it had always been my plan to eventually take my entrepreneurial journey into leadership development coaching because I mean, I think the most direct way that I can say it is that having good leadership changed the entire dynamic of my whole life. There is no way I would be where I am today, both personally and professionally, and let's be honest, and spiritually, if I didn't have the leaders that I have had and that I still have.
Mm.
Men and women that were my leaders in the military, like some of those people are still my leaders today.
Right.
These are still people that I go to for advice today. These are people that I still go to when I just feel like I need to talk to someone that understands me today, right? And so I and especially Tracy, like growing up in a place like East St. Louis, Illinois,
Mm.
and not being surrounded by at least not a tremendous amount of opportunity or men and women that I could look up to in a different light, in a professional light, because the men and women in my family are amazing. They made all of this, right? Like they helped me to
Sure.
become the person that I am
Yeah.
today. That started at home. But and so my family taught me how to love and dream and how to serve, but I didn't really have access to men and women that would then teach me how to lead based on learning how to follow first. And once I got in the military and started experiencing that, my entire life changed. And so I think that I have a really good life today. And I think that it would be tragic if I didn't pay that forward
Mm.
by going, okay, like I've gotten a lot of experience. I've already retired from one career. I'm 10 years into another career. I found a lot of success in my entrepreneurial journey, but I've also found some failure, like some really painful failure in my entrepreneurial
Hmm.
journey, right?
Yeah.
And I choose to look at the good side of things, which is, yeah, but look at how much I learned and grew from the entire situation, especially the failures. Look at how much better I am as a result of that. And again, what a tragedy it would be if I was so egotistical that I refused to share that information with other people that are trying to do the exact same thing that I've been doing over the last 10 years. Like, how horrible of me would it be if I didn't go to those people and go, no, 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 don't step there. Time out. Trust me. Don't step there. That's going to blow up.
Right.
Like, I've seen
Yeah.
that before a million times. Walk over this way here. Let me show you something else. There you go. Like, have a good day. It would just be, it would be tragic if I didn't readily give that information
Hmm.
to other people. And then lastly, this is just who I've always been. I've always been a giver, a teacher, a coach, outgoing, someone that loves to see other people grow and smile and be happy. The Navy just taught me how to really do that. The
Right.
Navy just sharpened that and honed that within me. And so with Hero Consulting, again, I feel like it would be tragic if I didn't go and take all of these amazing leadership qualities that I learned from these amazing people that raised me over my entire life and pay it forward to other people that may not have experienced those things. And so that's what I'm doing at Hero Consulting. It started out as just me, but like I said, I had the opportunity to grow and learn alongside some of the best men and women I've ever known in my entire life in the United States military. And so I've had the opportunity to pull some of them along with me into this particular journey because, again, those were the leaders I learned from.
Right.
You know, if
Sure.
you think I'm a great leader, wait until you meet this guy.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, right? And
Right.
so I'm having fun doing it, and I feel like my heart is aligned. I feel like this is what God wants me to be doing in this season of my life.
Hmm.
You know, I'm 47 now. Again, I've had a lot of success, I've had some failure. And so now it's time for me to focus on paying it forward and sharing it with other people.
I love that. Great mission. Um, so can you tell me kind of the how did the services of the program work? Is it one-on-one coaching? Is it group sessions? Talk to me about
Yeah,
that.
great question. Thank you for asking. So we have several offerings. Our entry level offering is a virtual briefing.
Mm-hmm.
So we have an operational model that we created. It is called the Boardroom Battle Rhythm. And this Boardroom Battle Rhythm is an operational cadence that we create it based on how we operated as efficiently and as effectively as we did, not just in the military, but in a SEAL platoon, not just in the Navy, but no, 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 no. This is how we operate in a SEAL platoon. People are always asking, why are you guys so good at what you do? And how can you get so much done and there are so few of you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's technique and it's cadence. And so we took those learnings and we combined them with our learnings, you know, from me being an entrepreneur over the last 10 years. Some of these other gentlemen have been in business and work with large companies for longer than I've been an entrepreneur because they retired ahead of me. And we created this battle rhythm that allows organizations to do a much better job of leading, of understanding what is the mission, why is this the mission,
Mm-hmm.
what is the overall big picture once this mission is accomplished. How are we going to accomplish this mission? Why are we doing it that way? Who's responsible for what? At what point do we report what? How are decisions made up and down the chain of command? Like all of the above. When is a decision made? How do we know when something's about to go wrong so that we do something about it before it blows up
Right.
and goes wrong and
Yeah.
creates other problems that we have to apply more resources to? And so what we found is that a lot of the medium to larger middle market businesses really love that briefing
Mm-hmm.
because their business is that, okay, they found a market, they're generating really good revenue, like typically more than 50 million in revenue. And now they're trying to figure out, okay, how do we keep the wheels from falling off this thing as it's shooting out into the stratosphere, right? So they're looking for operational
Mm-hmm.
strategies in order to do a better job of growing the company and growing the people so that there's succession within the business, right? But also, and that's just a 60 to 90-minute briefing that we do virtually, you know, where we audit the operational cadence and we teach them how to use the one that we design. And we're getting a lot of great feedback off that. But what happens oftentimes is that, especially if we give the briefing to a large enterprise, because we primarily work with chief human resource officers, general counsels, chief operating officers at middle market and large enterprise businesses that are doing, you know, well over 50 million
Oh,
in
wow.
revenue. And
Okay.
so oftentimes, you know, those organizations, they have multiple departments. These are big companies. You
Sure.
know, some of
Yeah.
our customers have well over 100,000 employees. And so once we give that briefing, we'll typically get a call and go, no, we need you to come in and just do an on-site or an off-site. And so we also offer a 1 day on-site or off-site, a 2 day on-site or off-site, where not only do we focus on the boardroom battle rhythm, but we double down on leadership, ownership, accountability, communication, all of the above. We're currently building out the web-based training arm, excuse me, of the business because we are picking up pace, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, people are beginning to require more of my time than I thought that this would require at the
Yeah.
very beginning. So I'm excited to announce that we're going to be launching the web-based training arm of the business very soon. And then lastly, we have a leadership embedment program where And it's typically the larger enterprises that take us up on this offering where, for whatever reason, they want to enhance the culture across their business. And so they'll want to bring in someone like a chief leadership officer. And so they'll retain that individual from our talent pool for anywhere between 90 and 180 days,
Hmm.
where that individual, typically a retired senior enlisted or senior officer from the special operations community, will embed within that organization and really help them to enhance the culture over, 3 to 6 months. And so
Oh, wow.
that's what we do for our clients. Most of it is in person. We like to roll up our sleeves, get our hands dirty, and get down in the trenches
Hmm.
with the team so that we can figure out what is actually going on. But it is all about helping people. Because if you help the leaders at a business and those leaders become better leaders, whether it's on purpose or not, they create better leaders out of their followers. Again, the succession becomes very natural in the business, and people start working better together. The business makes more money, on and on and on.
Right, right. Yeah. Oh, I love it. It sounds like you have an amazing program there. This has been great. Thank you so much for sharing about all that you're doing at We Are Hero. But Ty, this is the Tactical Treasures podcast. So we've come to the time where I need to ask you, what is your tactical treasure that you would like to share with us today?
The biggest lesson that I learned throughout my operational career in the SEAL teams is that over communication is highly underrated.
Mm.
Over communication. A lot of leaders focus on, oh, I don't want to talk too much. I don't want to be the one talking all the time because my followers should be talking. I should be listening to them. Yes, that is true. But when it comes to ensuring that your people actually understand the mission or the task or the evolution, however you coin it, whether you're in the military or in business, there is no such thing as over communication. And I learned that lesson. I learned it the hard way, but I got off very easy learning it
Mm.
the hard way.
Mm.
I learned that, long story short, I learned that lesson because one day in the summer of 2014, I was in the Tangi Valley of Afghanistan with my SEAL platoon. I was the platoon chief, and we had conducted a raid earlier that day to capture or kill a couple of really nasty Taliban commanders. And we got into a massive fight with the Taliban in the process of executing this operation. We were very successful with the operation. But when I say a massive gunfight, I mean like the fight was so big that we Winchestered an AC 130 gunship and two A-10 Warthogs. They were like, we love you guys, but we are out of ammunition. We'll pray for you. We hope you get back to the base safely. You guys are crazy. We're out of here.
Oh my
Right?
gosh. Wow.
They had nothing left to drop. It was one of those kinds of fights. And so, as a result of that, the Special Operations Task Force commander um, called us over to Bob Shank, which was about 7 kilometers away from this part of the Tangi Valley where we'd gotten in this massive fight, because they could hear everything happening. It was only 7 kilometers, so it was very close to the fob. They could hear the bombs, they could hear the gunfire, and so they called us over because they said, "Hey, we need you to debrief us on what just happened. Like, this is crazy. We've got the Air Wings calling us. They're like, these guys are like, and we've never seen SEALs do stuff like this. Like, this is, it's awesome, but these guys are crazy." And so we went over to Fob Shank. We debriefed the SOF commander on the operation. They were very, very pleased. But it was getting late in the afternoon, and the sun was beginning to set. And there was only one way in and one way out of the Tangi Valley, and that was a main supply route that we called Route Georgia. It was the only way in, it was the only way out. I didn't want my boys and I traveling on that one way in, one way out route, going back to our command outpost as the sun was setting, because again, it's one way in, it's one way out. There are very limited paths of egress. If you get ambushed, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. The route is heavily, littered with IDs. There's a lot of trouble. You don't want to be out there
Oh
in the
my
nighttime.
gosh.
And so I was doing what I thought was a good job of explaining to guys like, hey, we got to get out of here. I want to be back at our forward operating base, or I'm sorry, our combat outpost before the sun sets. Um, and they were taking a very long time because they were in the process of doing something that I didn't realize they were doing. And I think that they were only doing that thing because I, as a leader, failed to explain to them the why behind the mission and the fact that the mission had changed. So I failed to explain to them that, hey, listen, the mission has changed. We already completed the raid earlier. That was successful. Our mission is now to get to our command outpost safely, 10 and a half kilometers away from here. There's only one way in, one way out. I want every one of us in our vehicles back at the command outpost before the sun sets. So I don't even want us on Route Georgia while it's nighttime. It's the risk is just too high. I failed to go in depth explaining to them, A, the mission has changed. So shift your mindset, right?
Right.
I want you to be aggressive, but a little less aggression because this is no longer a capture kill raid. So we need to get back to the base. That is the new mission. And then also, let me explain to you why the mission has changed and why I want us to get back to the base before the sun sets instead of just going, "Hey, I'm in charge.
Just
Everybody get ready. Let's go." Like this, we're out of here.
right.
You know what
Yeah.
I assumed that my guys knew what was going on in my head, and that like, oh no, they're thinking just as tactically as I am. I don't want to be on Route Georgia when the sun sets. Blah 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 blah. But no, I should have been communicating that to them even though they were special dudes and operators and blah 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 blah, I should have communicated that to them. And so we ended up getting in what was the nastiest ambush, the nastiest gunfight I've ever experienced in my career. It scared me more than anything I've ever experienced in my life. Not because I was afraid for my own life, but that was the day I knew in my heart one of my men was going to die. Glory be to God, that did not happen. We all got back
Mhm.
safely. But to wrap this up, that was the lesson that I learned that day
Mhm.
was that it's never possible for me to over communicate my intentions and the why behind my intentions, the commander's intent to my guys. Because in doing that, I give them the ability to operate in a decentralized manner while keeping their eye on the prize. Like, no, 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 I got the mission. I don't need you to tell me how to do the mission. Just tell me what the mission is. That's what, okay, got it. And now I allow them to get there however they want, according to them having all of the information.
Right.
That could have been a very deadly lesson for me to learn. Thankfully, we
Right.
got everybody home safely, and I never made that mistake again.
Wow. Wow. So over communication is a really, really good thing, right? Yes.
It's a very good thing. And here's the thing in all aspects of life, in the
Hmm.
military, in business, in politics, and like, think about it. A lot of people in America that are angry right now and frustrated with what's happening in our country, I think it's a result of them not having all the information. They're not being communicated with enough. They don't know what's going on.
Right.
And people fear what they don't understand.
Correct.
Right. And it goes back to what you were saying at the very beginning of this conversation and how important words are.
Hmm.
We
Right.
have to use them.
Yes.
So,
True. Very true. I love that. That's a great tactical treasure and a great lesson.
yeah.
I would love to know just a couple little questions before we wrap up here. Any advice for fellow veterans struggling post service? We kind of already talked about
Yes,
it in the beginning, but maybe you have a couple little other nuggets that you might want to share.
absolutely. First and foremost, realize that, not just realize it, but accept that you're no longer a normal human being. And it's like define normal, right? But
Right.
accept it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with it. You have experiences that a lot of other people don't. It's okay. Look for what's good about those experiences and go out and serve based on those experiences. Also, I don't care how badass you think you are, transitioning from the military isn't something that you can do alone. It doesn't matter how smart you are, how capable you are, how talented you are. It's not something that you can do successfully on your own. So go get help. Lastly, if you think even for one moment that you are struggling with post traumatic stress, if even for just a half second you think it's possible, do not wait. Raise your hand right now. Tell everyone around you that this is what you're dealing with and you need to go get help. Tell your family, tell your friends, tell your girlfriend, tell the guy sitting next to you on the bench at the bus stop. Like, get yourself in the habit of standing up and saying, "Hey, I think something's going on with me. This doesn't feel right. I think I need help." Because the military does a very good job of teaching us not to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's because the military doesn't love us. They just, it's the military.
Right.
But the military teaches us to be humble, quiet professionals. I don't talk about or advertise the nature of my work. If I get knocked down in battle, I get up and I'm going to keep going every single time.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't talk about the fact that you're still a human being.
Right.
So trust me on this one. That was a storm that I knew I wasn't strong enough to withstand on my own. Just assume that you're not either and get in the habit of asking for help and learn that it's okay. I know the military taught us that you're not really supposed to ask for help, but it's okay to ask for help.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that those are three things that I try to give all transitioning
Yeah.
veterans.
Great advice. Great lessons. I love it. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So before you go, can you tell us where people can find and connect with you and where they can find out more information on We Are Hero, and if they're a big company that wants to tap into your services, how do they go about that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So definitely check out our website at www.wearehero.com. And that's hero with an I, not with an
Mm-hmm.
E. All of our services, our offerings are listed on the website. You can learn about us, why we do what we do, who we were before we started focusing on developing leaders. Also, you can check me out on all of the social media channels. I am very active. I drop leadership information into YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, multiple times a day, just about every day. I'm at Coach Ty Smith on LinkedIn, Facebook, or I'm sorry, on Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. And then on LinkedIn, you can just look me up with Coach Ty Smith / Ty Smith 31.
Okay. Oh, great. Thank you for that information. We'll be sure to get it out. Ty, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing all that you did and joining us today. It's been an honor to have you on, sir.
Thank you so much for having me. The honor was mine.
Thank you. Bye bye. Hello, viewers and listeners. Thank you for tuning into this episode of Tactical Treasures Podcast. We've just finished up a very enlightening and inspiring conversation with Ty Smith, who is a combat decorated Navy SEAL, leadership coach, and keynote speaker. He is also the founder of Hero Consulting, which does business as We Are Hero. It helps executives, entrepreneurs, and elite teams master leadership, communication, and accountability so they can perform at their highest level. Ty Smith, We Are Heroes founder, brings the unique insights of 20 years of combat proven Navy SEAL leadership and entrepreneurial experience, blending battlefield tested principles with boardroom strategy. The differentiator is training leaders and their teams to practice complete ownership, thriving under pressure, eliminating dysfunction, and taking full responsibility for outcomes. The result: stronger cultures, faster execution, and measurable, lasting impact across the organization. To learn more about their services and to book an intro call, go to wearehero.com. And be aware, hero is spelled HIRO. And you can connect with Ty on LinkedIn, Ty Smith. He is on all Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and check him out. Again, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, you can find Tactical Treasures podcast on all your favorite podcast platforms, American Grit, and on our website, tacticaltreasurespodcast.com, as well as our dedicated YouTube channel. We are now airing on Reese Across America Radio on Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. And if you miss that, be sure to join us on Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also find Reese Across America Radio on the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, and the TuneIn app. We are also proud to share that our JDog Foundation is a Reese Across America sponsorship group. For each $17 veterans wreath that you sponsor, $5 goes directly back to the JDog Foundation, whose mission is to prevent veteran suicide and heal veterans' mental health and PTS. You can donate right now at reacheacrossAmerica.org/JDog. Again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again on another podcast real soon. Bye-bye now.